Greetings, Noth Cliverhide, Darth Momo here. After a very long hiatus, I'm not saying the hiatus is going to be completely stopping, but we'll do a little bit here and there. Anyway, more to the point, I'm here to talk about Star Wars Resistance Season 1. So, originally, when the show was first announced, if you remember, I put out a video bashing it, talking about how bad it was going to be, how pointless it was, and just the look of it and everything. And I was very pessimistic about the show. I don't think I'm going to go in and review every single episode, because I did go ahead and give it a go. More on that in a second. But if I do end up rewatching it and it's convenient, I will do a rewatch of every episode. Otherwise, I'm just going to do a recap of Season 1 and then start doing every episode of Season 2. So, I sat down and I watched it. I figured, how bad can it be? And the first episode, I was surprised. Not that I thought it was amazing like the previous two shows, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so I decided I'd stick with it and watch it. It kind of went like the Freemaker Adventures. Granted, the Freemaker Adventures, that very first episode, I was blown away. I thought it was amazing. This, I was just more so surprised. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the next couple episodes kind of dwindled, and then it was just it was very much a hit or miss. A couple of them were, oh, that was good. Most of them were just, eh. And some of them were just, that was really, really bad. And then, and granted, this is all spoilers, so if you haven't seen the first season, go ahead and click off now. Then it was like this, after the mid-season premiere with the tentacle thing, the big squid from underneath the ocean. That was just a horrible episode, and I was getting ready. I was like, why am I watching this? Why am I wasting my time? And then the First Order started to play a much more larger and involved role in the show, and I began to grow more pleased with the show. Once they started to play a much more, I think it was the episode where they captured Torra and were making it all one of their plots where they were using the pirates, but they were making it seem like they were fighting the pirates. I loved that, and that's when my pretty much turned on in favor of the show. It became pretty good. I'm not going to say like it was top-notch quality, but it started to go from here all the way. It started just moving upwards. There was not a single episode that I hated or didn't really enjoy once the First Order began to get more involved in the second half of the show. And I thought the show got really strong. It was something I was behind. I was actually becoming eager to see the next episode week after week after week. And I thought the show ended really strong. There's still elements I hated about it. Neeku, I don't think I'll ever grow behind a character. Kaz, the main character, it's really a hit or miss for me. His whole grumbling and grunting and screaming, it's very annoying. Gets very old very quick. But just how he's grown as a character, when you set all that kind of bubbly kitty stuff aside and you watch how he's grown as a character, it's something much more I can get behind. I liked how they changed up his look, and with the whole wet down hair and he's missing his green jacket. To me, that was when he truly started to grow up and started to become a leader and take the lead and everything. When the show caught up with the timeline of The Force Awakens, that was definitely when I got on the edge of my seat, and I was behind everything. Didn't know how far it would catch up. I didn't know if it would get like we're seeing The Force Awakens in animation, or if it was just that was happening while this was happening. The destruction of the Hosnian Prime system. In The Force Awakens, first off, I was confused in The Force Awakens because I didn't know if that was just Coruscant that just got blown up or not. But besides, once I figured out it was Hosnian Prime, I didn't care. I didn't know anyone with Hosnian Prime. It was just more cannon fodder. At least with Alderaan, we had that connection with, it's Leia's homeworld. Now seeing, if you watched all the prequels and Rogue One and everything, Clone Wars, you've seen Alderaan, you visited, you've got to know Bail Organa. And so it's much more sad when you watch that in chronological order and then you see the thing blow up in A New Hope. It's like, oh, well, shoot, that was kind of sad. I like Bail. With Hosnian Prime, especially because if it was Coruscant, different story, because I like Coruscant as a world, I like it as a place, and some of the people there having gotten involved with the Clone Wars and the prequels, but it was was just some other random planet, no attachment to it. Now we get to view that from someone who has a personal connection to it. And even though I didn't really get behind Kaz's father, you know, you see him once in the show, you get behind Kaz and you feel for him when his world blows up. And so I really like how the First Order was done. I love how it's like the movies showed the stormtroopers to be kind of idiots in A New Hope, so Rebels stuck with that theme. The prequels showed clones to be pretty competent soldiers, and so the Clone Wars just stuck with that theme. And I like how, since the First Order's been seen to be relatively, competent and on top of things, the show sticks with that. And they stick with kind of the things the First Order does, with like the brainwashing and it's just being somewhat menacing. So I really like that. Yeager, I never really had an issue with him from the start. I was behind him. I like his character. He didn't really have much growth, but that one episode where his brother shows up and we get to learn more about both characters, and especially Yeager, that was pretty good. I like that. And then Tam. Again, not someone I really had much attachment to from the beginning, but I love what they did with her character. Granted, I have a good feeling in the end she'll pick her friends and she'll come back, but I love how they had that opportunity, because they started to separate. They showed how, like, Yeager being a pilot in the rebellion, he was obviously against the First Order when they started showing up and increasing their security. Kaz, having been with the New Republic and now with the Resistance, he's totally against it too. But Tam came from a family who was on an imperial world, and her family was supportive of the Empire, and she views them as bringing security. Gave her father a job and was able to bring food to the table when she was a kid. So she was relatively pro First Order. And ultimately, when the truth came out, Kaz was a Resistance spy, and the First Order started increasing their security, and they captured Tam. Tam went willingly with them. And when they were breaking off, and as the Colossus was coming out of the sky, or coming out of the water and get ready to launch, as they broke off and they started to back away, Pyre and Tierney, Kaz went with them, or Tam went with them. She made her choice, and I love that they did that. I was still relatively tense. I mean, I had a good feeling they were going to stick with it, but people like Star Wars Explained, when I watched those reviews, he's like, oh, I think ultimately she's going to choose her friends. And so I was relatively on the seat, because, it's a Disney show. It's unlike Rebels, which kind of bounced back and forth. This one is much more for kids, so I didn't know, were they going to stick with that? And they went the interesting way, and they had Tam go with the First Order. So that's something I really love to see. And I'm curious to see how that all plays out. Like I said, I have a feeling she's going to come back in the end, but they still have that chance to do something interesting in the meantime, and that's something I'm really interested in exploring. I'm also interested in exploring in the lead-up to The Rise of Skywalker, which I'm much more enthusiastic about now, even though the whole Last Jedi mess, I'm curious to see how we start to fill in those gaps. I have a feeling we're going to catch up with the main cast. We may not. But if we do, I'm curious to see how that all plays out. So, overall, I grew favorite of Resistance. I thought it ended pretty strong, and it looks like it's just going to continue that way. I was surprised at the announcement of the second season being the final season. But I kind of understand why. I think the show wasn't performing as well as they thought it was. Granted, they changed some of their marketing strategy and just their overall creating of the show compared to Rebels. Rebels was much more geared towards all ages. Resistance seems to be geared just towards kids. So I think that caused a lot of its marketing to fail and everything. I mean, it didn't even get a Blu-ray release. But overall, I'm curious to see how the next season plays out. And I think I'm going to enjoy the show. It's definitely, Rebels is still my favorite show. I still think Clone Wars is a strong show, and I'm curious. I'm really looking forward to that final season. But I wouldn't say Resistance is on par with either of those two, but it's definitely worked its way back up from nothing, and it earned its way. Whereas Clone Wars had to earn its way too, but Rebels kind of was able to skate off the heels of Clone Wars, and it earned some of the things it did, but it didn't necessarily. It came fresh off of a fan base that was all for it. They were waiting. They were all in on Clone Wars, and they were curious to see how this new show was going to come out. Resistance seemed to be met with criticism from the beginning, especially with that first trailer being disliked like 200,000 likes. And So it definitely earned its way. It started from nothing, it boosted its way back up. So overall, I think the first season was done relatively well, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the next and final season is going to play out. So I will continue doing weekly reviews like I did with all of Rebels, and we'll go from there. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Resistance Season 1. Resistance, it's alright, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you guys. Darth Momo, out. May the Force be with you, always.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them a delight.